Welcome to this lecture on Karl Marx, one of the most influential thinkers in the history of sociology, economics, and political philosophy. In this lecture, we will explore Marx not only as a theorist, but as a revolutionary intellectual whose ideas fundamentally transformed the way we understand society, power, inequality, and historical change. Karl Marx occupies a central position in classical sociological theory. His work provides a comprehensive critique of capitalism and offers a materialist interpretation of society, history, and social change. Marx did not view sociology as a neutral discipline. For him, social theory was a tool for emancipation and transformation. Biographical sketch of Karl Marx. Karl Heinrich Marx was born on the 5th of May, 1818 in Trier, in Prussia, modern-day Germany. His father was a lawyer with Enlightenment liberal ideas, which exposed Marx early to rationalist and critical thinking. Marx studied law at the University of Bonn and later philosophy at the University of Berlin, where he came under the influence of German idealism, particularly the philosophy of G.W.F. Hegel. Although Marx admired Hegel's dialectical method, he rejected Hegel's idealism. He later completed his doctoral thesis on ancient Greek philosophy. Political repression in Germany forced Marx into exile. He lived in Paris, Brussels, and finally London, where he spent the rest of his life in severe poverty. Karl Marx formed a lifelong intellectual partnership with Friedrich Engels, who provided both financial support and theoretical collaboration. Marx died in London in 1883. His major works include the Communist Manifesto, the German Ideology, Capital, and Contribution to the Critique of Political Economy. Intellectual sources of Marx's thought. Marx's ideas emerged from the synthesis of three major intellectual traditions. From German philosophy, particularly Hegel, Marx adopted the dialectical method, but transformed it from idealism to materialism. From British political economy, especially Adam Smith and David Ricardo, Marx borrowed the labor theory of value and then critically reworked it. From French socialist thought, Marx drew inspiration regarding class struggle, revolution, and social equality. Dialectical materialism. Dialectical materialism is the philosophical foundation of Marx's theory. Marx argued that reality is material and constantly changing through contradictions. Unlike Hegel, who believed ideas drive history, Marx asserted that material conditions and economic relations are the primary forces shaping society. Change occurs through dialectical conflict between opposing forces, such as classes with contradictory interests. Historical materialism. Historical materialism is Marx's theory of social development. According to Marx, the history of human society is the history of changing modes of production. Each society consists of forces of production, including technology, tools, raw materials, and human labor. Relations of production, which refer to ownership patterns and social relationships in production. Together, these constitute the mode of production. Marx identified major historical stages such as primitive communism, slavery, feudalism, capitalism, socialism, and communism. Each stage contains internal contradictions that eventually lead to its breakdown. Base and superstructure. One of Marx's most influential ideas is the base-superstructure model. The economic base includes the forces and relations of production. The superstructure consists of institutions such as the state, law, education, religion, family, culture, and ideology. Marx argued that the superstructure functions to maintain and legitimize the economic base. Legal systems, political institutions, and moral values serve the interests of the ruling class by presenting inequality as natural or justified. Mode of production. The mode of production determines social organization. Under capitalism, private ownership of the means of production and wage labor dominate social relations. Marx emphasized that changes in productive forces eventually come into conflict with existing relations of production, leading to social revolution. Class and class structure. For Marx, class is defined by one's relationship to the means of production. In capitalism, society is polarized into the bourgeoisie, who own and control productive resources, the proletariat, who sell their labor power to survive, Other intermediate classes exist but tend to disappear over time due to capitalist development. Class struggle. Marx famously stated that the history of society is the history of class struggles. Class struggle arises from conflicting economic interests between classes. This struggle may appear in economic forms such as strikes, political forms such as labor movements, or revolutionary forms aimed at overthrowing the capitalist system. Labor theory of value. Marx argued that labor is the source of all value. The value of a commodity is determined by the socially necessary labor time required to produce it. This theory forms the basis for Marx's critique of capitalist exploitation. Surplus value. Surplus value refers to the difference between the value produced by workers and the wages they receive. Capitalists extend working hours or intensify labor to extract surplus value. Profit, therefore, originates from unpaid labor rather than fair exchange. Exploitation. Exploitation is a structural feature of capitalism. Workers are legally free but economically compelled to sell their labor power. The capitalist system systematically transfers value from labor to capital. Alienation. Marx argued that capitalism alienates workers in 4 ways. Alienation from the product of labor. Alienation from the process of labor. Alienation from fellow workers. Alienation from species being, or human creative potential. Alienation leads to loss of meaning, creativity, and human fulfillment. Commodity fetishism. Commodity fetishism occurs when social relations between people appear as relations between things. Under capitalism, commodities seem to have independent value, obscuring the labor relations behind production. Ideology and false consciousness. Ideology refers to a system of ideas that masks real social relations. False consciousness occurs when the working class accepts capitalist ideology, believing inequality is natural or inevitable. Religion, nationalism, and dominant moral values often function as ideological tools. Religion. Marx viewed religion as a response to material suffering. He famously described religion as the opium of the people because it provides emotional comfort while discouraging revolutionary change. Capitalism and its contradictions. Marx identified inherent contradictions within capitalism, including concentration of wealth, economic crises, unemployment, overproduction, increasing inequality. These contradictions intensify class struggle and eventually lead to systemic collapse. State and politics. Marx viewed the state as an instrument of class domination. Political power reflects economic power, and the state primarily serves bourgeois interests. Revolution and dictatorship of the proletariat. Marx believed that capitalism would be overthrown through proletarian revolution. After revolution, a transitional phase known as the dictatorship of the proletariat would dismantle capitalist structures. Socialism and communism. Socialism involves collective ownership of the means of production. Communism represents a classless, stateless society based on equality and cooperation, where production is organized according to human needs. Contribution and relevance. Marx's theories transformed sociology by introducing a structural, conflict-based, and critical approach. His ideas remain central to debates on inequality, globalization, labor, and power. Like, share, and subscribe the video if this lecture helped you understand Karl Marx. Thank you.